Welcome to episode 3 of Clicks and Commerce. I am your host, Yananai, and this is my co-host, Franthoni. Franthoni, what's up?
Good to see you again, Yana. How are you? How?
My week has been busy, but busy is always good. It's been calls and calls. It's been calls about collaborations with different partners. It's been client calls, so potential clients signing on. It's been also just reviewing some of the stuff that we did last year. So kind of finding where you're at with your clients and how you want to move forward in this year, Q1, all that jazz. So yeah, it's been busy, but busy's good. Yourself?
Yeah, it's been the same. It's been mainly all about Google Ads, and as everyone knows, we're both Google Ads practitioners. Yeah, same thing. Just been managing accounts, scaling accounts, a few wins, a few losses over here, some challenges. Yeah, we're here today for another episode, which one I'm excited about, which is talking about the evolution of Google Ads and basically what the last 20 years.
The
So it's
evolution.
it's it's been a while, right? So yeah, first off, let's just start with the history of ads, right? It's just the history of Google AdWords. Fun fact, Google AdWords was launched way before I was born. I was born in 1999, but Google AdWords was launched in the year 2000, right? So initially, I think they had around 50 advertisers. That's the source I saw on the internet, said that they had like around 250 advertisers. And funny enough, they actually sold the CPM model first, right? So for the first 2 years, Google was selling the CPM model. And, that's how they started, right? And then now we're going to go through the
Quick one
chronicle.
for the people that don't know, CPM, cost per mile. What does that
Oh,
mean?
CPM is cost per impression, cost per 1,000 impression, which means that every time X amount of people, usually it's 1,000, every time 1,000 users would see your ad and get an impression, Google would charge you for that, right? It's the same bidding model that Meta is still using to this day, right? So super important. We're going to break down the acronyms as well as we go. So 2022, the pay-per-click model comes in. So you pay every single time you get a click. That's when Google decided to bring that out. That's when they started to roll out the quality score. Excuse me, I said 2022.
2002.
2003, Google AdSense launched. So that's when they launched that. That's when, that rolled out. So this is really interesting because what's really important to take away here is that it took years, right? It took Google 20 years to be where it's at today, and it's still not even the final phase, right? And mind you, I still wasn't even running ads when all of this was happening. I was still in diapers in 2003, right? So there was a lot of users way before I could even think about it, I were already doing some, exceptional stuff in Google Ads, right? So I have some notes and I really want to go through this because I think it's very impressive what it did. 5, your targeting and conversion tracking was rolled out. And 8, Google Ads Editor, right? And I feel like Google Ads Editor is really the powerhouse for, practitioners and media buyers like ourselves. It allows you to just do so much in such
You
little
build
time,
a
right?
whole campaign in there and just upload it without the lag of the internet and all of that. You just import your sheets into there and it's just so much faster.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to I'm heavily trying to get better at Google Ads Editor because I know it's so powerful and you can really and I guess it's just about using it, right? Google, so we started in 2008. It took them 8 years to launch the editor, right? Mind you, we're in 2025. It's 2008. We still have 17 years to go. And we're going to continue talking about the breakout, how Google, brick by brick, they built this machine of a tool and it's just getting bigger, right? So here we go. 2010, introduction of remarketing, right? That's when Google said, hey, so what is remarketing? For those who don't know, if someone comes on your website and you want them to come back on your website, then you're going to create a specific piece of content that's going to incite that user to want to come back on your website, right? And then inside of Google Ads, specifically, you can do this through, your campaigns, right? So you can do this through a search remarketing campaign, a shopping remarketing campaign. And now in 2025, Performance Max does it for you automatically, right? And that's even a date that we have to bring into the rollout because we're still in the early days of Performance Max, right? So we're going to continue. 2012, that's when the shopping ads were rolled out. So this is the time when e-commerce started to like boom, right? Because now you can
Wait,
actually,
2012.
yeah, 2012. So And we have to fact check. You guys can definitely fact check all this. I did some research, but if anyone has any other sources, please feel free to add them and drop them in the comments because it's important. But yeah, 2012 is when Google Shopping came out. 2013, enhanced campaigns. 15, mobile, the focus on mobile. 18 is when Google AdWords rebranded to Google Ads, right? So it hasn't even been 10 years that we've been calling it Google Ads. It's been about 7 years if we take into account this year. From 2018 up until now is when we notice a shift towards automation. 2018 was the introduction of smart campaigns, right? So that's when you started to have that general, smart shopping campaign. That's when those campaigns started to roll out. And then in the last, 20 years is YouTube, the growth of YouTube advertising when they started pushing discovery ads, video ads. 2021 is when Performance Max rolled out. Now, yeah, do you remember when Performance Max rolled out? It was about 4 years ago, and
Performance Max.
it still feels like it was yesterday. Now, we'd love to also kind of like talk about, how was that transition for you, and just like, I mean, yeah, 20 years of work to get to build this one campaign type, this one tool that is basically taking us into the next, phase of Google Ads.
All right. So first, before we even talk about the mechanisms of Performance Max, I just want to talk about the actual name. That I think they got it right from the name. Performance Max, there's just something about it where instinctively, before anybody explains what it is to you, the branding, you already know that this is something that is going to maximize your campaign, maximize your performance. And just a brief breakdown of what Performance Max is it basically takes all of your assets. So, Google runs different types of campaigns. There's search, there's shopping, there's display, all of these different campaigns. And you can put all of those assets, so your video assets, your icons, your visuals, put it into Performance Max. And then Performance Max will basically find your users or find your customers at the level of awareness they're at or the stage of the buying cycle that they're at. So if somebody's in the awareness stage and they are more inclined to visuals, then Google will be like, let's show them visuals. And then that'll bring them down to the middle of the funnel. And they'll show them another type of asset, and it'll bring them to the bottom of the funnel until they actually buy from you. And then if somebody is ready to buy, then it'll show them a search ad. If somebody is in the middle. So it basically just mixes and matches. And because Google has data that is older than Franthoni, you made me feel old.
Okay.
That when you say 2003, you were in diapers. I was in the 5th grade. I was already, I was already getting up to mischief. You just blew my mind with that. But yeah, and I've had a Gmail account, I think for about 21, 22 years now. So they've got all of this data on you. They've known you for the past 20 or so years, or whenever you really started getting active with the internet. So they've got this deep psycho profile of you. So they understand the way you purchase things. They understand the way that you make decisions, whether you like it or not, whether we want to talk about privacy and all of that. That is the reality of how these platforms work, and especially Google. So they've got all of this information, and they know when to put something in front of you that'll make you make the decision that they want you to make in that moment, which is actually going to the landing page and then making that final purchase. So Performance Max jumbles all of this and just maximizes all of that. And Performance Max was a game changer. When it came in, obviously there's that initial launch where things don't quite work the way that they're supposed to. And before we knew, things like brand exclusions and your stuff getting shown even on platforms where you don't want them to get shown, and not quite spending. But the best thing about Google is they always iterate and iterate. They're constantly iterating. Like every month, every 2 weeks, there's always an improvement that's happening. So it was very fast until you started seeing the potential of Performance Max, and now it's just gone. But also, I don't know, not to want to go too deep into it, but I'm also, these days we're also seeing that Google Shopping and shopping ads are actually starting to outperform Performance Max and all of that. But that's a conversation possibly for another day. But yeah, it was really exciting times when Performance Max came in. It was a game changer.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we can dive. We'll have specific, episodes where we talk specifically about, difference in campaign types. But I feel like, Performance Max was the visual and physical representation of this new era that we're in, which is the era of AI, right? For the last few years, everyone's been like talking about automation. And then just to finish on this, final day 2023, Google introduces generative AI into their platform. So now you can actually have AI assist you in creating your ads, whether that be ad copy or even you have product studio as well, right? So we see the shift, and now we're here in 2025. We don't know yet what Google's going to roll out this year. They're going to release it throughout the year. Basically 25 years later, I'm 26, so Google has been as long alive, has been around as long as I've been alive, and we're in this automation phase, right? So for someone like yourself, and like and someone from like myself, I've been running Google Ads now for 5 years. So when I started in 2021. That's when Performance Max came in, right? So then you have the old school practitioners that would say, if you didn't know Google before, you're actually missing out on something. Because myself, I was basically launched into Google with the AI, with the automation. But if you're someone who was around, let's say pre 2018, and you were building out your funnel, you were breaking down how Performance Max works. Well, essentially, Google is like, before you had to create one search campaign, one shopping campaign, one display campaign, one YouTube campaign, and then you had to add, exclusions at each level, make sure that you're targeting each step of the funnel. And this funnel approach would basically be maybe a 3 to 5 campaign structure. Google basically said, okay, that's over. Let's bring it into a one campaign structure. And we'll do all of that automatically. And we'll even do it better than you, right? Because that's also the promise with Google. And what I've seen at least these 5 years, running ads, is that at first when I started, I would find not the older, the experts that had more years than I did. They were always very, hesitant with Google. I was always like, don't. That was the best advice I got that from a media buyer who was like, don't trust Google, right? Question everything you see. And you always have the like, I need the data to validate. And the reason we say this is because when you launch PMAX right away, if you're coming into Google Ads today in this AI world, this, generative AI, well, you just launch a PMAX campaign and Google will give you exactly what you want. If you want a 5X, Google will give you that, because it has this 20 years of data. And I think it's important for us, as practitioners, to kind of tell the audience how to adapt in this new Google Ads world, right? Like, so what would you recommend for CMOs, brand owners who are not that familiar with Google Ads, who maybe dabbed into it in, maybe 2015, 2016, they're coming back a few years later and it's like, oh, wow, you have PMAX. Now I can just basically launch a campaign. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that meme, like the chat media buyer, which is just like, let it
Yeah.
rip, no exclusions. That's basically where we're at now. So, how are you transitioning into that? And, what are you advising to your clients?
All right. To quote Bane from The Dark Knight, I was born in Google Max. No, I was born before Google Performance Max, molded by it. Yeah. So I was there in the period before Performance Max was a thing, where Google Ads was mostly manual. So that was about 7, 8 years ago. And then I watched all of this automation start to come into play. And what I can say about it is that us old school guys, and I'm not the oldest of the old school guys, but us
Yeah.
old school guys sometimes overhype the way things were. I think the best thing about the older days before Performance Max and all of these other things came in is things like cost per click and getting results was a lot cheaper, but it wasn't necessarily cheaper because of the platform itself. I think it was just a matter of there wasn't that much competition. Competition was there, but now people realize the potential of these platforms like Google. They now know about Performance Max and all of this. So there's been an influx of different businesses that know that I need to be on Google. I need to show up on the first page of Google. Otherwise, my business is, for the most part, non-existent, because that's where all of the commerce happens. So yeah, there's a lot of lovey-doveyness of what used to be. But I will say that Google Ads has become a lot more complicated with these changes. But for a person that really dives into the nitty-gritties, you have all the tools that you have to succeed So whether it's Performance Max, whether it's Demand Gen, which used to be, I think
Discovery
I'm forgetting the
campaigns.
Discovery campaigns, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Discovery campaigns, and then it became Demand Gen. All of these tools, right? If you use them right, they will X your campaigns. They make things so much easier. They take a lot of guesswork out because you had to be the person that did the research, that sat down and said, and then did a lot of this research where you have to know every single thing about your audiences, and then you have to know where they are, and you have to know the way they think. So you're now also a psychologist. And these are very good foundational skills to have, which are now skills that I also have. But when Google streamlines all of these things, it then gives you time to think of campaigns from a strategic point. So instead of always thinking about the technical execution, you also then to have time to actually think about growth. Since things are working, you can now also think about how you want to expand it, how you want to scale. You get more time to think about budgets, to do the maths behind all of these campaigns and think about things like profitability, because you're not always in there every day, every other day,
Yeah, changing
manually
bids.
changing this and manually changing that, manually changing bids, manually. Now there's also scripts as well. So you can put in a script and it will
Man.
negative keywords. So you can automatically take out negative keywords and put in certain keywords and farm this and do that. So it streamlines so many things. It complicates a lot of things, especially if you are at the starting stage. So it's a very steep learning curve. But if you're in it and you know how to use it, you can run with it. You can make so much money with it. And what I would advise CMOs or anybody that is at the strategic level, or that is at management level in a business and thinking about growing with it, is basically just have honest conversations with your teams or your service providers where they break down what these different things do, so that you also know how to plan for them. So whenever you are creating your assets, let's say your video assets and whatever, and your messaging and all of that, really make these people a part of your plans so that you understand how best to make them successful with their campaigns that they're running. So if they need a lot of visual assets, let's say your brand is very visual and people need to understand things visually, have those conversations with them so that they know they can also then plan that. All right, so then once we get those assets, we're going to put them in PMax, or we need certain things for Google Shopping, or things need to look a certain way so that we stand out from the competition on the shopping page. So you really need to have those conversations and understand. You don't need to be a professional, but just understand, have a basic understanding of how it works, so that you can help, whether it's your agency, your freelance, or whatever it is, to help them do their job a lot better, or to help them help you. That's what I would advise.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice. And what I'm seeing as well, now that Google has leveled the playing field, because, a few years ago, I guess, people like myself, like I basically learned Google ads, on YouTube ads and, through getting my hands dirty, just spending dollars. Back in the day, it would take a lot longer. It would be a lot harder. But now with this, even playing field, for example, someone with no experience can launch. And I've actually, had prospects and clients be like, hey, I'm running a PMAX ad. I have a 5X ROAS. Maybe I should be a Google Ads video buyer, right? And now it's really important for us practitioners to really understand the tool that we're using, right? Gonna make the difference between us as experts and our clients, partners, CMOs is how well Google Ads, right? So we know that PMax can be launched, right? Anyone can whip up a few creatives, assets. Google even creates the assets for you now. Like you just literally pop your website in, and Google's like, let me handle it for you, and then we'll generate the results. For a long time, it felt like Google wants to exclude us, the middleman. But with this rise towards AI, what we're seeing is that, the true fundamental knowledge is the way to go, right? Because here's the thing. Now you have this super sexy toolbox, right? Which is like, I have PMax, I have like all these great bidding strategies, right? Like no one wants to like be doing manual bids like in the dinosaur days. Like now Google's like, hey, just give me the bids. So if you're not optimizing bids, you're not necessarily, excluding keywords, because like PMax is like, we can do it for you. Yes, you can exclude at the account level, but Google's like, I can do it for you. What is the true value of an expert, right? Like, what is it that we're actually offering to our partners and our clients? Well, like I mentioned, true expertise of the tool that you're using, right? Like even if you have the toolbox, you need to know when to leverage PMax, because and then we can make like a whole segment on this, right? But it's like, maybe when you're just starting off, you don't, maybe launching a PMAX campaign may not be the right thing. You have to consider. So we need to get way smarter and more knowledgeable of our exact tool to adapt to these new shifts, right? Because I anticipate that the next 5 years are going to be even crazier, right? Like maybe I saw a few posts on LinkedIn that people are saying that we're heading closer and closer to the keywordless world. Like imagine a world with no keywords in Google. That means that even then there's like a true expertise. So this evolution of Google going from manual, and even on the other platforms as well, going from manual to AI pushes us, practitioners and even brand and businesses to level up your game. You're not in a space that's competitive. I mean, you're not in a space that's, comfortable. It's evolving every single day. It's very competitive. And now we see it. You talked about scripts. Like it's literally getting to the point where you can manage an account without, having to touch it, right? But then now you have to view the algorithm as a baby, right? I think I heard this once. I think it was on a video. It was like, now it's either you're the pilot, the algorithm is the baby, and then you're like the babysitter. So now what I'm doing is
That
letting
might have been
Google.
me.
Oh, what I'm trying to do is let Google prove to me that I can give it more room, right? Okay, Google, I'm not going to give you $1,000 per day budget. Prove to me that at a 2 extra hours at $500 spend, you can do it. So we're seeing this change in our relationship with the platforms. And if we bring it down even specifically to how can, for the next steps, brand owners, e-commerces, like businesses in general, how can they prepare for the future step? Like what is like, if I know you speak to a few brand owners a week. So let's say I'm a brand and I'm coming to you like, hey, I have a PMAX campaign. Everything is automated. What's the value do you like? What value do you provide? And then also like, how can I, as a business, just stay relevant, stay competitive? Like, what would you say to that?
All right. So the way I usually have conversations with business owners is that I don't actually focus on things like PMAX and shopping ads, so forth. I do talk about them just to provide context. But my thing is always that tools change. 6 months from now, a year from now, PMAX might not even be a thing. There'll be something else. Google is always trying to, I know Google, everybody knows Google is having like this big shift towards AI and AI tools and AI essentials. Last year's what's called the event that they have every year. I'm forgetting
Google
the name of
Think.
it.
I think it's Google Think, Google Marketing Live. I think that's the name. Yeah.
Google Marketing Live, exactly.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just AI this, AI
Oh,
that,
yeah.
AI assets, AI creation of this, AI suggestions. Everything was AI. So tools will change. The campaign execution will change. For me, it's always about the underlying goal that the client wants to achieve, their revenue targets, the fundamentals of their business, and how you get them to that using Google. So the role of the Google Ads strategist is going to, well, it's always been, but I think it's going to become more and more of an advisor and a strategist and a marketer, like going back to actually being a marketer, like understanding what marketing is, understanding human psychology, understanding copy, understanding storytelling, understanding visuals, and how all of these things work. So it's now a balancing act of knowing the things that resonate with the clients. It's about understanding your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and their where they interact with content, how they interact with content. So it's more about the thing that's being sold, the business and the fundamentals, and also about the end user or the end buyer, and you bridging this gap more than the actual tools. So Google will help you with that. Google will always come up with different things. But if you focus too much on the tools, you get lost. You become perfect at execution, but then you find that there's a disconnect between the thing that you're selling and the people that you're selling to, because you're focusing on the spanner, you're focusing on the hammer rather than the thing that you're actually building. That's
Yeah.
how I could try and communicate it to clients. So
And
it's
I think
all about
that's,
just understanding their business and helping them execute the final vision that will get them to revenue.
yeah. And I agree 100%. I think especially as a Google Ads strategist, like the key thing is, being the true expert in the execution. But these last, few months, I found myself, talking more about, P&Ls, forecasting, profit, making sure that your tracking is up to date. Now it feels more like you have to be, you still have to have one true skill. Like, we believe that, yeah, I'm really good at Google Ads, really good at YouTube ads, really good at, search, shopping, have some meta ad skills. But the true value is providing, local knowledge, right? So client wants to target a specific country and they're outside of that country. And you have, knowledge on how the users behave, to your point about human psychology. That's what you're trying to provide. And one thing that I think a lot is, I think I heard this on a live as well. Google doesn't know what you want. Like PMax doesn't know what you want. Like if you have 1,000 products and you have, you want to sell specifically 3 products and whatever it is that you want to do with those products, Google doesn't know that, right? So you are the one that has to tell Google, hey, don't just cherry pick these top 3 products and completely ignore the other. You still need someone to do that. You want to put context to the tools, right? Like these AIs are they cannot exist without existing information, right? Up until now, and obviously it's probably going to change in a few years, but what I'm seeing, and this is my personal take, is that the AIs are not creating anything, right? Like the creation comes from us, from the fact that we have a conscience, and up until now, the AIs don't have a conscience, right? So that human element is super important, one for the algorithm, and then for the role of being the advisor, the consultant. Well, even for us, we have to have a great knowledge of how the AI tools work, because now these tools save us 50% of our time. And it's like, okay, where do we focus on next, 50% of our time? Like, what is it that we have to educate ourselves on, right? So now, like you mentioned, ad copy, marketing, actually reading, Ogilvy's books on, copywriting and going back to the true basics, because it can get very blurry with all these tools and all these mechanisms, and you can be going everywhere and not going anywhere, right? And then that's why it's always important to just either one, educate yourself, right? There's a lot of free resources to upgrade your skills, whether it be through Google Ads, Meta Ads, or reach out to, an advisor, an agency, a partner that can steer the wheel and reassure you, right? Because what we've seen is that even though brand owners are able to launch, and I've audited accounts where I saw only PMax. Now I was mind blown. I was like, wow, this is even like the account was spending about $60,000 in spend per month, full PMax, like literally full PMax, assets only, everything. But we still, like, I still work with the client, because what the client needs now at this scale is someone that, okay, understands that, okay, hey, be careful, because even though Google says that it can do this at scale, you still have certain parameters, right? So I'm finding more and more that the need for, Google Ads strategists, agencies, freelancers, whatever the case may be, is just growing more and more, because these business owners do not have the time to just geek out on Google Ads like we're doing here, right? Like they don't have the time. They have a business to run. And I feel like it just reinforced our role even more. And specifically, well, just set us up now to evolve, right? Like any practitioner who's refusing to, go with the flow of AI is just going to stay behind, right? So a lot of shifts, a lot of trends, but ultimately what we're seeing with all of this automation is that there's a lot of benefits to it, right? Like we can also talk about how now you're spending less hours, executing keywords, right? Like now you're spending less hours adjusting bids. Like you mentioned, now we actually have time to focus and make sure that you're having impactful changes in the account, which I feel that can be lost if you're just trying to like focus on the next shiny object, right?
True, true. Well, on my end, the last thing that I'll say is being conscious of time. The last thing that I'll say is that I think you've seen some of the lead generation videos that I've been doing. For those who don't know, follow me on LinkedIn. If you scroll on my feed, will see some of the videos that I do, where I basically analyze different business owners, businesses, and where I think Google Ads can help. I do all of these videos without actually being inside the Google Ads accounts of these potential clients or businesses that I'm just interested in, that I have a genuine interest in. So it's just me seeing potential, but I don't even need to get into Google to see the potential of these businesses or where they're lacking. So this is me kind of enforcing the point that I mentioned before, that of you being an advisor and a strategist, that Google will be the tool, Google will be the execution, but you need to understand the fundamentals of business, of what makes a business work, of what makes marketing work, of what makes sales work. And even without diving into Google, you can actually have a whole plan. But then after that, you're having a meeting with these different people to then understand the nuances of the business that will help you fine tune it. And then you go into Google and execute that strategy. Or if they have something running already, now you're aligning it with the growth potential that you're seeing and fixing possibly some of the errors that you're seeing in there. So Google is helping you execute, but because you've got this knowledge beforehand, right, that then fine tunes whatever you do with Google and makes it run a lot smoother and a lot faster and get results a lot better than if you are just a person that's coming in and then just putting everything into PMax and without any strategy. It might work for the short term, or it might work, but not work to its full potential.
Yeah. And I think, key takeaway is set your goals at the business level and then decide on what tools will help you get to that goal, right? And then third, decide on how efficient you want to utilize that tool, right? So to Yana's point, we've seen setups with, PMax only. You still see that these businesses, these accounts still need a true expert to scale the account, right? Because automation without optimization will naturally hit a ceiling, right? And I think that's a really good catchphrase to end this episode on. So Yana, I'll let you close it.
All right. So once again, this is Clicks and Commerce. Thank you very much for joining us. We have been talking about the evolution of Google Ads. It's been around for a while, and I feel it'll be around for a long time as well. It's only getting better. It's only getting more complicated as well. It's 50-50 because you can get in at entry level and do something, but also for the really advanced people, you can do a lot with it. And it's just really exciting times. I am Yananai, the CEO of Funnel Vision. We're Google Ads for DTC e-commerce agencies, DTC e-commerce businesses. And yeah, see you on the next one.
I'm Fran. I'm a Google Ads and Media Buyer, Google Ads and Merchant Center expert. I'm here to help you out, whether that be on e-com, info products, or lead gen. No matter the language, English, French, and Spanish, I'm your guy. So I'll see you on the next one.
Cool. And yeah, quick one. You can find links to our other social media pages like LinkedIn in the description. Yeah, cheers.
See you guys.